And believe me, it's coming, and coming very rapidly.
You're listening to GCN, the Genesis Communication Radio Network.
Well, this is Dr. Stan. If you're out there in the listening audience, you have a question for Bob, our telephone number is 1-888-24-LIBERTY. 1-888-24-LIBERTY or 464-8295. But right now, of course, we do hope that if Bob, you'll go ahead and talk to our listeners about how they can get hold of you, get hold of an international forecaster, and perhaps want to subscribe. And I see you've changed your email.
Right. Yes, we did. And the forecaster is about business, finance, economics, and social and political issues all over the world. We publish by email on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Usually runs around 35 pages each time. And we have a hard copy for those who are not on the Internet that goes out twice a month. Now, if you'd like to get a free introductory copy, there's 3 ways to do that. Number 1, you can go to our site, theinternationalforecaster.com. Theinternational, FORECASTER.com. You can email us at bob@intforecaster.com. That's bob@intforecaster.com. Or you can call toll-free 800-375-4188. That's 800-375-4188.
All right, fine. Let's see. We have somebody calling in, or anybody would like to call. Our number is 1-888-24-LIBERTY or 1-888-24-LIBERTY or 464-8295. Well, when do you think gold is going to begin to recover? Because they certainly knocked it down again today.
Well, I think it can base out anywhere between probably around 900 where it's at. It's in the 920s right now, so we got a 10% correction. One of the good things is the correction has taken place in 6 business days, maybe a total of 9 or 10 business days, and that's it. And that's very fortunate because when things come down in markets and they come down quickly, the damage is not nearly as deep as you would find if the market came down slowly in gold and lost $100 an ounce over a period of 6 months. It's grueling and it's debilitating. And when you get a correction like this, which in these markets really a spiking like this can only be caused by the United States government. There are other factors, needless to say, but they take advantage of it because they don't want gold going up. They don't want people to realize that it's the only real money in the world. And, of course, silver follows along with it. It goes down and goes up in the same general fashion. And so I expect that the correction will be over soon. It may be here. It may be a little bit lower. And I hear some of these pundits, newsletter writers, who so many of I've known for years. For a year now, I've been talking about gold at 500, and they've been dead wrong. I mean, there's a serious underlying problem there. And there's not enough gold out there to satisfy demand, particularly in the physical markets. And as time goes on and currencies get weaker and weaker, people are going to turn more and more to gold. A good example, our next-door neighbor, Mexico, had its peso drop in the last 4 or 5 months from 10.50 to the dollar down to almost 16.50 to the dollar. I mean, that is a terrific change. And it's not that there's something dramatically wrong with Mexico. It's just that they export over 80% of their goods in the United States. And as you said earlier, Stan, that companies are not manufacturing things because there's no buyers out there. Well, it applies to not only Mexico, but to Canada. I mean, the Canadian dollar went from 115 down to 77. It's been a little bit lower than that before. It'll probably end down in the 60s. And the Canadians and the Mexicans just love that, because that means that their exports are cheaper and more competitive, and hopefully they think that there might be buyers for their products in the United States. I hate to inform them that buyers are not going to be there.
I'm sure
the psychology has changed. People are not going to take risks.
Well, everything has changed. Let's go to Dan, who's calling from Pennsylvania. Hi, Dan. How are you doing?
Hello, Dr. Stan.
You have a question or comment for our guest?
Yes, I have a question for Bob. Everybody's been falling all over themselves in the last couple of weeks over Glenn Beck. And, programs on Genesis and everything else. And I've always looked at him, and I've listened to him sporadically over the last several years, and I always thought he was an idiot because he's a jokester, he's a jester. And now all of a sudden he's getting serious. And I know for a fact that Rupert Murdoch, or one of them moguls, owns Fox. What in the world is going on when he starts going up here talking about the very same things that we're talking about? And he says, I was the first one to project this economic downflow, and I know you were light years ahead of everybody. Do you have any comments about Glenn Beck and what is going on with this controlled media feeding us this stuff now?
He's been chosen to give out 90% of fact and 5% of fiction. It's part of propaganda. And that's what's going on. George Soros chimed in, and now we have the great loser, supposedly the Oracle of Omaha, Warren Buffett, chiming in saying that there's going to be terrible inflation and we're a long way from the end. They're preparing people for things. Glenn Beck was talking about Bubba's attacking the government. They want them to. They want martial law. And, people out there shouldn't fall for guys like this. This is what this is all about. It's massively orchestrated propaganda, and they have 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 people who are known come out and say things like that in order to either condition or get people to do things. In the case of acting against the government, that's a new episode. That's something they want people to do if they can find some people to do that or influence them to do that.
So would this be another
on the other hand, the financial things, they're all coordinated, believe me. Warren Buffett just lost 50% of the value of the stock of
Berkshire Hathaway.
Berkshire Hathaway since the top of the market 20 months ago.
Now, was that his money?
That doesn't sound like any oracle to me.
That was the company. That was the money of his stockholders in the company. Now, of course, they own a number of very good companies. But the thing is that long ago he warned against the danger of derivatives. And so what did he do? He went out and bought derivatives. He was the one who coined the term derivatives are financial weapons of mass destruction, currently latent, but potentially lethal. And then what did he do? Invested in them, and he is going to destroy. The people who've invested with him have done amazingly well. But I think he's going to destroy their investments before this is over because for one reason or another, he seems to be doing exactly what the establishment wants him to do. Anything else that you have, Dan, before we let you go?
Just one thing. Is this, Bob, do you think this is just a form of psyops to control the sheeple even more?
Absolutely. Psyops are simply propaganda.
And believe me,
psychological warfare goes on all the time from many quarters, whether financial, economic, social, political. I mean, there's all sorts of nuances, and I studied that back in the early 1950s when brainwashing is what it was called, and then of course I spent some time working with the government, and they taught me a great deal about it. And so I can see through lots of things that these people are doing and catch on to things that other people don't catch on to, which, incidentally, you caught on to. That's why you asked the question.
I'm learning.
Well, remember what Bernays said, Edward Bernays said, we are governed, our minds are molded, our taste formed, our ideas suggested largely by people we have never known of. And of course, you have to understand that they are feeding us just the material they want us to get. But what they will not tell you is this was all planned. This is being orchestrated. They're not trying to solve the problem, and the reason for it is because they want to use this crisis to bring about a one-world government. And that's what the Henry Kissinger article on January the 12th in the International Herald says. You need to get it. You need to read it. You need to help us get it out. Hey, thanks very much for calling, Dan.
Thank you very much, Dr. Stan. Thank you.
God bless and bye. Let's go
Bye-bye.
to, we've got a caller from Santa Cruz. We've got Rod calling from Santa Cruz. Rod, did you have a question for our guest?